I saw it, like, flying over the fortress. I was like, what?
So you had a moment of going, wait, did Google purchase Finland?
Do Google own the Finnish military now? Is that what's happened?
Myself and Bill have been discussing off air for like the last 20 minutes to half an hour about the next item of follow-up. I was full sure I was correct in my viewpoint on this item of follow-up. And it turns out I'm not. And I want to thank Bill for enlightening me. So, just so the last 20 minutes...
You're making me sound like a jerk here.
No, you didn't say it in a jerky way. You just kind of went, no, Edgar, you're wrong. And I learned something.
No, I didn't. I asked why would that be the case. I didn't tell you you're wrong. I asked a question.
You did, and it turns out I was very wrong. But in any case, in order to not make the last 20 minutes to half an hour be a total waste, I feel like we should tell the listeners what we were talking about.
So what it was on the show notes, or on the plan for this episode, there was one segment that was just, in quotation marks, that green and blue dot. So I asked Edgar, what was this about?
And it was about one line in one Voyager episode that made me so angry that I stopped watching Voyager that night and just was like, nah, I'm done. And it was from the episode where the Doctor has a holographic girlfriend. I think it's in the middle of season 2, as far as I know.
For anyone who hasn't watched Voyager, that's not weird, because the Doctor is also a hologram.
That's true. The Doctor's a hologram. So this was a great moment for the Doctor, because he's being a hologram. He's kind of lonely, you know? So he gets on really well with this girlfriend. He takes her on a date to the holosuite, and the holosuite is done out like Mars in the future. So you see a colony in the background, and it's like sunset, and they're on a Martian cliff sitting in a 57 Chevy, which is hilarious, to say the least. And at one point, the Doctor looks up to the sky and goes, "Do you see that pale green and blue dot? That's Earth." And that made me really angry, and I closed my screen. And so I complained about this for 20 minutes to Bill, and then Bill was like, "Don't think so, man."
Okay, well, first of all, line out why that annoyed you.
Okay, so yeah, it annoyed me because I was of the opinion that from Mars, from an observer on Mars, one could not make out colours of another planet. They would simply be too far away. And so Bill thought this was suspect, and so we did a bit of Googling. Turns out, apparently, you can see a reddish colour, the reddish colour of Mars, from Earth. So it stands to reason that you might be able to see colours, the Earth colours, from Mars. Which I had no idea about.
Now, I'm gonna actually defend you a bit here.
Okay.
Because there's a couple of different ways to interpret this. You might inadvertently be right, and that's something about Mars's atmosphere or magnetic field or whatever makes it more difficult to see the colours. That's possible.
Okay, yeah, local environments could make it difficult to see colours, yeah.
Potentially. And you said that he said that green and blue dot. I don't think you'd be able to make out like two distinct colours at that kind of distance. And I don't even know if it would really look green and blue. I mean, it would probably look kind of brown from, deserts and stuff as well. It would be mostly blue, I suspect.
Yeah, I didn't pay that much attention to correctly quote the Doctor. So he could have said that greenish blue dot, or he may have said that green and blue dot. To be honest, at the time, I didn't think this would play an important role in this discussion.
And the other thing is that they weren't on Mars. They were on the holodeck. So it could have been some kind of program or setting designed to enhance things like that, make it more spectacular. Or maybe the Doctor just kind of upped that parameter to make his date kind of more impressive.
Yeah, that is very true. That's always the case. I suppose just the hard world builder in me took it literally and was like, that's not right, Doctor.
But also then, looking at it from that point of view, that it's actually the holodeck, then there's nothing impressive about that to show your date. It's like, oh, look, there's an imaginary picture of Earth. Like it's, what does she care?
That's a very good point. And like this hologram, just to be clear, I think this hologram there was some casualty aboard Voyager, and they had to upload that person's consciousness into a hologram. So that the hologram was a person before, and not someone from the Alpha Quadrant, so one of the Delta Quadrant aliens. So for her, it would have been really good to see an accurate depiction of what the solar system was like. Which is also another very, 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 very valid point. But I feel kind of bad now because, like, I like to brag myself.
They can do that, and they have mind uploading in Star Trek.
They have, well, in that instance, they do, yeah.
Huh?
Why? I feel like you have a point to make here.
No, that's just like that's a game changer. That is like such a fundamentally huge technology to have that should change everything. Why like don't Starfleet officers have like a weekly schedule where they make a new backup of their brain?
Well, that's a good point. Or hold on, better still, why just have no Starfleet officers? Okay, so bear with me here for a second. So the Doctor on Voyager, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
He exists in a tangible form. Like, you can interact with him. He exists like matter when he's in an area that has hollow emitters.
Yeah,
okay?
He's a hologram.
He's a hologram, exactly, yeah. So why don't they make all starships, like, cover them with holographic emitters, right? So every area can support holograms. And then just upload the minds of the most brilliant Star Trek officers into the ships and let the holograms go out and explore. You know, no loss of life if something bad happens. You know, the humans can all sit back in their utopia and be all happy with themselves. You know?
If they, yeah. Well, what would save space there is if they didn't need to actually build habitable ships with internal spaces at all. Because if it's all just uploaded minds and like, you don't need food and you don't need transporters and stuff, and all you need to do would be transport the hollow emitters.
That's true.
That's for surface missions.
Or to be fair, actually, to make it even easier, why not just cut out everything and just have computers do it?
Well, yeah, that's if it's an uploaded mind, then it's a computer essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do they have artificial intelligence in Star Trek? I don't think they do.
Data.
Oh yeah, of course they do. Yeah. But it's a small technology. It's not a widespread technology because he was like built by kind of a crazy kind of rogue fringe scientist, wasn't
he? Yeah, there was Data and there was his brother Lore.
Yeah, and wasn't there a third?
Oh.
Didn't they have a third brother?
I don't know. Did he appear in some movies? Because I haven't seen the movies.
Maybe it is from a movie. I'm not sure. I thought there was a third one, but maybe not.
I don't remember there being a third one, but huh?
Yeah, for some reason I had it in my head that there was. Oh yeah, there's another one called B4.
Feck off. Do you have a brief thing of his story there?
Yeah, no, I'm just reading this off Memory Alpha. He was one of 3 failed prototypes, and his brain wasn't as sophisticated. He appears in Nemesis, I think.
Oh, okay. That's the film, isn't it?
That's the last Next Generation film, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so then I that's why I don't know about him. I've only ever watched the series. But yeah, it's cool because like there's like 2 robots in like the entire Star Trek universe.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's funny because Star Wars is like robot-tastic.
Yeah.
There's robots everywhere. It just seems like, okay, why? How come Star Trek hasn't got any robots? I like that there's no robots because it brings up the whole thing about like slavery and things like that. Because you know, some of the robots in Star Wars, they're kind of slaves.
Completely, yes. They're sentient beings that are owned.
Yeah, that are owned, exactly. So I think it's kind of cool that Star Trek sidesteps that question of, is it right to own a robot if that robot is sentient?
Mm-hmm.
Or coming close to sentience and all that. It
actually
makes everything cleaner.
That was a stupid question for me to ask about AI, because obviously the Doctor's an AI as well. So yeah, they obviously do have AI.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is Star Trek is awful. Look, on a humanitarian point of view, because they could just make, you know, backups of everyone's minds and no one would have to die, and they could send like holograms on away missions and to explore the galaxy and stuff. And they don't.
And they don't, because god damn it, we need to have real people when we watch television. Do you know what? A couple points, right? Have you ever like thought about the fact that the Federation are kind of like a friendly Borg?
I have never thought about that.
Yeah, you know the way the Borg go around assimilating cultures?
Yeah.
You know the way the Federation kind of go around assimilating cultures, except in a much more friendly and civilized way.
Not forcibly.
But not forcibly. Yeah, that's what I mean. Sorry, that's what I meant by friendly. Like they do it nicely with like diplomacy and it's mutually beneficial and things like that. But like one could argue that there's a yin yang thing going on there, which I think is really cool.
I guess.
You don't sound convinced, no?
I mean, it's like comparing democracy to like feudalism because you have to pay taxes in both. I mean, it's, you know, one, you're empowered and you have a say in things, and in the other, you still pay taxes, but you don't have a say in things.
Okay, yeah, no. Like, obviously there's minutia going on there that I'm not accounting for, but in a sort of TLDR of things, I can imagine the writer sat down and went, oh, wouldn't it be great if the Borg were like extremist Federation people that had the principles of, like, you know, banding together, except taking to a twisted extreme.
Oh, I suppose, because it is kind of about unity or whatever.
Yeah, I think they thought about this when they're writing it.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
I always found that really cool.
And we will add your diversity to our own. I always thought that was a cool line.
The Borg are just cool.
Yeah.
They're great. Like, so much better than Voyager villains. So far, the Voyager villains are just like real bleh. Like the Kazon. You're like, what? Who are you? What is... You just seem like you're like a savage race that are just angry all the time and incapable of making correct decisions. It's like, god damn it.
So they're Delta Quadrant Klingons except stupid.
They're Delta... Except, yes, you're dead right. I really like Klingons, man. Don't be hating on the Klingons.
Yeah, except stupid. I'm not saying Klingons are stupid. I'm saying that these guys are like Klingons, but if Klingons were stupid.
The other thing I was going to say, Bill, is the Doctor, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think I remember you saying that you like him as a character.
No, that was Julian Bashir I was talking about.
Oh, so is Julian Bashir your favourite Doctor?
I think that's what I said.
Oh, okay. Having finished Deep Space Nine, I don't see why Bashir is your favourite Doctor.
Well, bear in mind, I watched this when it came out when I was like 9, so...
Oh, you're so cool. You're such a nerd.
I guess.
When I was 9, I was out like playing like football with the lads. Like, I didn't discover nerd culture until like way into my teens. But anyhow, what makes Bashir good in your mind?
My answer is to do with spoilers for the end of the end of the series, so...
Okay, I will bleep them out. Can you tell me?
Okay, well, I remember one episode where it's revealed and I just thought that was really
knew
cool.
You were going to say that. Alright, so is that your sole premise for Bashir being cool?
That's the only thing I remember about him. Right. Also, the actor is pretty cool, as far as I can recall.
He's the dude in Game of Thrones as well. He plays, is it... Oh, the King of Dorne. What's his face? I can't remember. But he plays the King of Dorne in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. He plays Doran Martell.
That's the one. There you go.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool seeing him in Game of Thrones. But in any case, so I'm sorry, Bill. I thought that you thought the Doctor from Voyager was your favorite Doctor.
I don't think that's what I said. Maybe it was, but I don't think so.
But what I was going to say, regardless, was that I am really beginning to like the Doctor.
Really?
I think he's a very cool character.
Okay.
He's like a slightly sillier McCoy.
Okay.
From the original series. He's kind of like a bit of a hard ass. You know, he's kind of grumpy. He doesn't take nonsense. But then he can have these moments of like flamboyance where he's just hilarious. Like unintentionally hilarious. Almost like an old version of Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang Theory.
You're not selling him to me.
Right, let's do this. Big Bang Theory. Where do we stand on The Big Bang Theory?
It's absolute trash.
What makes it absolute trash?
There's nothing, like, it's really unfunny, first of all, for the most part.
Okay.
I saw a few funny episodes from early on, where, like, I had an occasional good gag, but it's just, I find it really lazy writing, and it's making fun of nerds, but it's not by nerds. You know, like, nerds are pretty good at making fun of ourselves, but there's kind of no warmth in the humor to it. It's laughing at rather than laughing with.
Okay, I disagree strongly with everything you just said.
Really?
I'm sorry. I genuinely really love The Big Bang Theory. Like, it's usually on right before I start work, and I usually sit down and watch an episode or two of it before work. I think it's great.
Fair enough.
I'm sorry, Bill. I'll agree with you, though, that it is anything but a comedy show. It's not funny at all. Like, I've never laughed at a Big Bang Theory episode. but I don't watch it for humor. And I kind of wish to just get rid of the humor in a way, or the so-called humor. I watch it because of the little nerdy in-jokes. And like, oh, I get that's a physics joke. Oh, that's really funny. And it's like, oh, that's got that references like, games way back in the old days, pre PS1 days or whatever.
Yeah.
And like that, those sort of things I find really good. And it's a really happy show. Like the colors are really nice. It's really colorful and really happy and bouncy. I love it.
I don't know. Reference humor is something that I think I have very kind of low tolerance for, unless it's done very well.
What happens if you left the word humor out? What happens if you stop thinking of it as humor and just as like reference dialogue?
Oh, well, then it's just obnoxious. It's just like, oh, I know a thing. Oh, I know a thing too. Let's all give ourselves a clap in the back for knowing a thing. That could be a valid criticism, but I don't think that way. I just really like all the nerd references. Do you know what I like as well? And you might disagree with me, but I think it's nice for a show to promote intellectualism. But I don't think that it does.
But at least it discusses intellectualism. Like the characters are all physicists, or well, for the most part, they all have doctorates. I mean, you don't get that in TV shows at all. Like, can you name another TV show that's centered around academics?
Not off the top of my head. Frasier maybe, but I don't like Frasier much.
You see, I love Frasier as well. Is there anything we actually like? Okay, we both hate Voyager. Okay, we get that.
Well, I take your point that it's showing intellectuals, but I don't think it shows them in a good light. They're objects of fun.
Yeah, okay, that's very true. I mean, like, one can't have a funny sitcom if one takes academia seriously. I suppose, but
but there's a difference between taking academia seriously and showing intellectual people as objects of fun. You can have both of those. They're not mutually exclusive ideas.
You see, I don't find their treatment of the academics in the show as being offensive in any way. Like, I think it's done really well.
Fair enough.
And I like that. This is just a difference of opinion sort of thing. But there's that physics thought experiment that when you're struggling to come to a conclusion, take things to extremes, and that often helps you decide what side of the line you're on. Mm-hmm. So I would rather see a world where most TV shows are like Big Bang Theory, in which they try at least to bring intellectualism to the fore. Maybe Big Bang Theory does it in a flawed way, but at least it's trying. I would rather see that world as opposed to a world where it was all like made in Chelsea. Do you know what I mean? So I think the world is better off for having Big Bang Theory than it would be if it didn't have it.
Right.
That's my personal opinion. Oh, and one last thing. I have a student of mine. I asked recently, he's 11 or something, and I asked him recently what he wants to be when he grows up. And he was like, I want to be a physicist. And I was like, you're kidding. That's really cool. What made you want to be a physicist? And he was like, the Big Bang Theory.
I mean, that's great, but what do 11-year-olds know about anything?
No, I know, but the thing is that he is watching that, and he has been exposed to that as a thing that is cool. Like, he sees physicists as being cool and funny. So, again, like, I'm not trying to sway you onto my side. Like, if you don't, I totally get how people can't tolerate that program at all. But I really like it. And those are my reasons, you know? So in the last episode, Bill, we talked a lot about the design of the new Artifexian alien. Mm-hmm. And I put it out there for people to give their opinions and feedback on the designs I had come up with.
Yeah.
And people did. It was great. Like, a lot of people wrote back in the subreddit, which was awesome. And I think the consensus was that your choice of alien was the better choice of alien.
My taste is impeccable.
Your taste is infinitely better than mine. So no flat feet, little bulbous feet to go with the little bulbous body. Not only did Reddit think your Artifexian alien was better than mine, they also think that your choice of TV is much better than mine as well. Everyone, it seems like, was behind Bill's idea that the Fly episode from Breaking Bad is brilliant.
Yeah.
So the Reddit is quickly turning into everyone loves Bill and disagrees with Edgar.
My taste is impeccable.
It's, again, infinitely better than mine. So I rewatched The Fly.
Okay.
Last night. And I've upgraded it.
Okay.
From terrible to, like, subpar.
From terrible to merely bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Some good points, though. Your man, Rian Johnson, is clearly an awesome director. And the filming is really, really good. And his, like, the way he frames things and his cuts are very art house. And, like, really unexpected in TV shows. And that was awesome. But the dialogue and the premise, it was too thin to carry an entire episode, I thought. And I think it's publicly known that was a filler episode. They spent all their budget on the big super lab. And they needed to pare back. They needed to have one like minimal cast episode with minimal effects and things like that. So I mean, like it was filler. It was always intended to be filler, and it just smacks of that to me.
It was filler in terms of production and budget and things, but I still think it was brilliantly done.
Yeah, I think it was brilliantly produced, but I don't think it added anything to the story. I don't think anything that happened in that. I don't think anything that happened in that episode furthered the Breaking Bad story. Like I get that Walter and Jesse have their own personal demons, and that's obviously a source of conflict in their lives. I knew that already. I didn't need an entire episode with a fly to tell me that. Now, I'm not saying you're wrong or anything. I'm just like giving my opinions on why I dislike it. But I was really blown away with the filming. The filming was really good.
Yeah. So I guess your issue is more with the writing than with anything on Rian Johnson's end.
Yeah. I don't. Did he write it or did he just direct it?
No, I wouldn't say so.
Okay, so the directing is very, very good. The visuals are very, very good. Yeah, just the premise and the plot and some of the dialogue's okay, but I don't know. It just didn't fit for me.
It was written by Sam Catlin and Moira Wally-Beckett.
There you go. Two people that should not write Breaking Bad episodes.
I'm sure they wrote other ones as well.
I'm sure they did. But yeah, so that makes me really intrigued to see what happens when he takes over Star Wars. Like, can you imagine Star Wars with like filmed in an art house style? Like that would be strange with loads of like bizarre cuts and jump cuts and strange framing. Like that would be awesome.
He hasn't just done art house kind of stuff. Like he did the film Looper as well, which is just kind of a sci-fi thriller.
Yeah, okay, yeah, no, I don't know anything aside from Brick and that episode of Breaking Bad.
I haven't seen Looper, but it's the one with Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Bruce Willis. The time travel.
Oh, okay.
Film.
Half of that sounds really intriguing to me. The Joseph Gordon-Levitt part, not the Bruce Willis part.
He's a good actor.
Yeah, no, he is a good actor. What else is he in other than Die Hard?
Sixth Sense.
Oh yeah, he's very good in Sixth Sense. Yeah.
And he's great in Unbreakable, which is the previous the next one by the same director, by M. Night Shyamalan.
What an awful director. Diametrically opposed to Rian Johnson. Oh.
No, hold on. Sixth Sense is a good film.
Oh yeah, no, The Sixth Sense is a good film. That's like
Unbreakable is a good film. And Signs is not entirely terrible.
Lady in the Water.
I haven't seen it. I mean, I guess the thing is that all his films are pretty much the same film, because there's a big ridiculous twist in it. But, you know, Sixth Sense and Unbreakable are pretty good. Unbreakable is it spoilery for me to say this?
I can cut it. I can bleep it out if you want.
Okay. Essentially, Unbreakable is...
Oh, I think I have seen Unbreakable.
Yeah.
Can you briefly describe the plot?
Bruce Willis is invulnerable.
Oh, and there's something about they go to a game, some sort of sports game. There's something with a sports game in that film, and there's like a little kid.
Possibly. It's also got Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh yeah, and he plays sort of like a mentor type figure.
Kinda, yeah.
Okay, I think we're on about the same thing. Yeah, that wasn't terrible. It wasn't mind blowing either, though.
I really like it. I think it's a really good film.
Well, if you really like it, the subreddit will really like it.
And Signs is the alien invasion film.
Yeah, no, I definitely haven't seen that.
It's interesting. There's kind of more to it than there's potentially more to it than you see at first.
I take all that on board, Bill. And again, I present you with Lady in the Water, I think it is.
Oh, yeah. No,
hang on. And then Avatar, The Last Airbender.
Okay.
And then that film with not Bruce Willis, with Will Smith, After Earth. That was also a shocker. The Village is a shocker. There's some very, very bad movies he's made.
I don't disagree with that, but he's not entirely terrible, is all I'm saying.
I think, to be honest, I think it's kind of luck on his part. I think he lucked out.
You reckon?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like the guy clearly isn't incompetent. Like, he clearly can make a film, but he just like hit it big with one or two, and then just was unable to do anything else decent after that.
Possibly.
Yeah, I don't know. As long as he doesn't take over any filming of anything I care about, I'm fine. He can do whatever he wants. I was horrified when I found out that The Last Airbender was him. I was like, nope, it's already failed even before I've watched it.
And apparently it is terrible.
Oh, it's the worst. It's like exposition all the time. And like, you know the way movies should show rather than tell? It just tells you everything, shows you nothing. The casting is horrible. The story just moves like at a bizarre pace. Essentially, the cartoon is handled really well, and the film is just handled really poorly. In any case, there you go. The Fly. It's an okay episode, unless you're Bill and everyone else on the internet. So, come here. So that's pretty much all from the Reddit, really. Oh, one more thing, actually. On the subject of music.
Yeah?
Someone suggested that I have some music that's similar to the music in World of Warcraft.
Okay.
Which is very interesting. I had a look, or had a listen, rather. And the music's really good for that game. Like, there's some really good orchestral music.
Yeah, well, Blizzard are a big company. They can pay big dollar.
Yeah, this is true. But I wasn't expecting that. Like, it's really, really good music. It's not really suited to Artifexian because it's a bit grand and epic. But it was still really cool to be introduced to that music because I've never played that game. So thank you to that Redditor whose name escapes me. But I had a good bit of time listening to some World of Warcraft music and it made me very happy.
ZXAna.
ZXAna. Thank you, ZXAna.
Video game music is huge. Like there's really a lot to it. I think in a few years we'll start seeing being recognized in the same way that we think about film music now. Oh,
definitely, yeah, definitely. Considering like it's such a huge market, video games, so it makes sense for the producers of video games to really like you say, pay top dollar for great music.
Mm-hmm.
And in any case, with graphics getting so good as well, video games are essentially turning into films as well. Or at least they have these, they can have these broad cinematic sort of sequences, which was just impossible in the sort of like N64 days.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, so anyhow, while we're talking about music as well, I changed the music to the Artifexian. I changed the Artifexian music.
Yeah, so I noticed.
So, it's not a permanent change. I just want to make that clear. I'm trying out new things. What do you think about it, Bill?
I liked it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, it's I'm kind of slow to accept change sometimes with things that I've gotten used to. You know, like when people get like new haircuts and things, it usually takes me a while to get used to it.
I know this like from first hand, like.
No, because I always got used to yours very quickly.
You did, but I was really funny.
Oh no, except for one of them. Except when I think it was when you cut the dreads off. I think it took me a while to get used to that.
Oh, did it? All right,
I think so.
The time I got a pompadour, I remember distinctly you coming over to me like, I don't know, a week or two after I'd gotten a pompadour, and you were like, I like your hair now. I've come to terms with it.
Oh, was it? Maybe that was it.
It was so funny, and then I was like, "What? You think about my hair in your spare time? I don't understand."
No, it wasn't. I think about it in your spare time. We were living together at the time, and we were going to the same college, so I saw you every day.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I saw you too bloody much.
But yeah, that was quite funny. But anyhow, you're slow to accept change, but you accepted this change.
I mean, I liked it well enough, and I think I'll come to think that it fits in. I expect I'll find that it fits in.
Okay, all right.
It's kind of there's something kind of new agey about it.
Oh,
what?
Oh, that's a bad word, though.
Are you mortally offended?
I am a bit.
Hi.
Oh, new age. Those words like conjure images of like crystals and people like rubbing each other's toes to cure some sort of disease or something. No.
Yeah. They may be on flawed epistemological grounds, but sometimes they got good aesthetics.
Yeah, I didn't think of it all like that. I thought it was just as a kind of a slick electro track.
Right.
Anyways, it makes no difference what it is, really, as long as it's some sort of music for the background. See, I chose that based on the fact that it wasn't too complex, but busy enough.
Yeah.
But then in the comments below the video, like the opinions were like divided. Like some people were like, made it really easy to listen to you with this new music. And other people were like, I could not understand what you were saying. The music was too complicated. And it's
Really?
like, yeah, it's really weird. I didn't expect it to be so like split down the middle. Like it would have been so much better if everyone just went, I hate it. You know, because then I could just go, right, I need to change it. But now it's kind of like, I don't know if I should change it. So in any case, though, I'm still on the lookout for more and new interesting stuff. And eventually one day, Bill, I'll hit something that I'm like, yeah, this is 100%.
Cool.
Okay, so do you want to head into the mailbag?
Sure thing.
What have we got in the mailbag?
We have a few emails to catch up on because we couldn't get this done for the last episode.
Or rather, we did get it done, but the audio just went mental.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, it was really weird. So we did actually do feedback last episode, but unfortunately it couldn't make the final cut.
So we have one here from Dominic.
Uh-huh.
And this was in relation to mapping galaxies.
Yes.
And he proposes a system here on how to divide up a three-dimensional galaxy. Now, the maths in it are pretty advanced. Or at least I would need to actually sit down and look at it. I can't quite get an exact image of it in my head from reading it, but I think I know roughly what he's getting at. So you choose a center point in the galaxy.
Okay.
And you have an x-axis, which is going through the thickness, so through the short direction, the short dimension.
So like the galactic plane.
Yeah, through like the bubble of the galactic hub and not out towards the arms.
Yeah.
Perpendicular to the plane. So those two are well defined. And now we create a sphere with radius of 1 unit length around the center. So there's a little bubble there of whatever length in the center. And that's the basis for the rest of it. That's divided into 8, that bubble.
Okay.
And then there's a bigger bubble built onto that each time, but so that the eighths remain in the same volume each time. So it'll be less far out from the center. Like the boundary will be a shorter distance away from the center.
Right.
But the overall volume of the segment will be the same.
Yeah, because volume goes up higher than radius. Yeah. Or goes up faster than radius.
Yeah, so that's quite an interesting way, and it breaks it down in a very sort of manageable mathematical sense. And it has the benefit for things like, I don't know, if we're talking about this as an administrative division, then everything is the same volume. So there's quite a lot of benefits to that. What's odd about it, from my point of view, though, is, you know, say you're 4 divisions away from the center. That's a thin segment spread out over a sort of a huge 2-dimensional surface area.
Yeah.
So you could have 2 points in that are closer to points, say, 2 segments away towards the center of the galaxy than they are to each other.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which it makes it a little unwieldy from that point of view, that it's based on the sort of an arbitrary geometric division of space rather than anything directly useful.
Yeah, that's true. You're kind of superimposing a geometric structure over the galaxy in order to map it.
Yeah.
Whereas that does not take into account useful features like natural features or like say political groupings and things like that.
Not even that. It's just that, I mean, if you have, let's say, find the 2 points that are as far away from each other as possible in one segment. If you're on an outer segment, that's a good bit away. That's spread over a huge sort of curved surface area. So they're going to be closer to a lot of places in other segments than they are to each other.
I see. Yeah.
It makes it kind of unwieldy. It'd be like if, I don't know, it would be like if the south of England was ruled from Edinburgh, but nowhere in between was.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. I hadn't considered that at all. That's a good point.
I mean, as with everything, no single mapping system is going to satisfy all requirements. That's just one issue in it. But yeah, otherwise I think it's pretty cool, and there's some neat little mathematics to it. If Dominic is listening, and if he's okay with us sharing the maths, we might put it up in the show notes or put it up on the Reddit or something at some stage.
Yeah, definitely, because I think you do need the maths to fully appreciate what Dominic's trying to say. So yeah, Dominic, email us and let us know if we can post this publicly, because I think people will be really interested in seeing this. I have a slight issue with the system, though.
Oh yeah?
In that it's not intuitive enough, I think. Remember we spoke before, I think, was it 1 or 2 podcasts ago, about tabletop games. And how they use, like, cliches when it comes to, like, race. Like, you have the orc and the elf and things like that.
Yeah, there's certain expectations that they have to satisfy to work.
Right, exactly, because you need the gamers to immediately know what's going on in order for them to engage.
Yeah.
So the same thing is kind of here. Like, it's a very cool system, and it's really, like, mathsy, and I really like it.
Yeah.
But, like, you really have to spend a lot of time sitting down and going, right, what is going on? And if you were to try and squeeze that into the narrative of a story, say, or even have it like an Easter egg in, like, the lore or whatever, like, that takes a lot of explaining. And the more explaining is needed, the less an audience is willing to engage with it.
Yeah.
I think that doesn't make it a bad idea. It just means that it's very hard to apply.
Exactly. I mean, volume isn't something that we grasp as intuitively as distance, I think.
Yeah.
So that's possibly part of what you're getting at there.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because you have to think in 3 dimensions, and it's way easier to think in 2 dimensions.
Yeah. One less dimension.
One less thing to think about. Yeah, so, but a really cool idea. And again, it's super that people write into the show, and, like, I've taken the time to come up with really neat ideas and write them down and send them into us. Like, that's awesome. Like, it really makes me so happy.
Thank you very much. We have one here from a long-time listener.
Okay.
By the name of Rumac.
Right.
Who suggests that you should subscribe to Zidnaf.
So I read this. So to put this in context, we had a language episode not so long ago. And on the back of that language episode, loads of people sent me comments being like, you should subscribe to Zidnaf. And in that episode, I said, no more comments, people. Seriously, I've already subscribed. It's all good. And Ruback kindly sent an email post that show saying I should subscribe to Zidnaf, which is pretty awesome.
Rumac is someone known to us both personally in real life. So we'll move on from that one.
Yeah, and that I see that I can be kind of scathing towards him because of that. I wouldn't be scathing towards a stranger like that.
That's it then. Apart from, we've got one left from Kyle Parrish, who wants to talk about J.J. Abrams and how I like Die Hard, how I personally like Die Hard, but I don't like J.J. Abrams' Star Trek. There's definitely a discussion to be had here. I think we might hold off on discussing J.J. Abrams until the next Star Wars film is out, so we can have a kind of a fuller discussion on it. Yeah,
definitely, because we'll definitely have a Star Wars podcast. And if the Star Wars film turns out to be great, then we'll have a discussion about what J.J. Abrams did better in Star Wars than he did in the likes of Star Trek. And if it turns out to be awful, we'll just relate it to J.J. Abrams' Star Trek movies as well. So in either way, we'll work those films into the Star Wars episode, and you'll get a sort of a full idea of our feelings towards J.J. Abrams. New Horizons has flown by Pluto. And it would be a shame not to talk about Pluto, given that I'm such a space nerd.
Are you?
I am a bit, yeah.
Who knew?
Who would have thought, eh? So, were you following the Pluto thing at all?
A little bit. Not actively. I saw a lot of it, and I read a few things.
Okay, well, tell us, what do you know about Pluto?
So, it is a dwarf planet.
It is a dwarf planet.
Previously, the 9th planet in the solar system.
We will talk about the dwarf planet thing in a second. I have some misgivings I need to air.
What else? It's tidally locked with its main moon, Charon. They're both tidally locked to each other, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, they're kind of a double planet system.
Yeah, and the epicenter, is that the correct term, of their system is actually outside of Pluto. So they both orbit a point around Pluto.
Yeah.
Or like they both orbit a point in between them in space. It's not like the moon orbits Earth.
Exactly, yeah. It's a different system to the Earth-Moon system.
Yeah, because they're so close in size. It's a little bigger than they thought. The New Horizons discovered that it's a little bit. It's got a bigger radius than we previously thought.
Uh-huh.
And they've got like the first kind of actual good photographs of it ever. What else do I know?
Yeah, and boy, are those photographs better than the last ones.
Oh, miles better.
Miles better. Like, I was forced to use the pixelated things for my Dwarf Planet video. And I kind of wish I had waited to get decent pics of Pluto. And those pics are beautiful.
Mm-hmm. I that's all I can really remember right now.
Did you follow the live streams by any chance?
No.
Okay, so I followed the live streams, believe it or not.
I would believe.
And it was, I was actually kind of worried because the flyby of Pluto occurred on my 1 year anniversary.
All right.
So myself and the captain have been going out for 1 year, and I was like,
oh, congratulations to you both.
Oh, thank you. But I was like, oh God, I don't think I can go to her and be like, can I not do the anniversary and watch Pluto all day? But I did. And she was fine with it, which was awesome. So she made me an American breakfast and was like, you sit and eat the American breakfast while you watch the live stream. I'll read a book. It'll be great. And that's what happened. And it was awesome. It was great. Because
hold on. What's an American breakfast? Pancakes and stuff?
Pancakes, bacon, maple syrup, and scrambled eggs. Nice. Yeah, it was very good. It was a whopping breakfast. I was very happy. So I watched the live stream, and there's a couple of things that I just want to talk about.
Sure.
One being that it was abundantly clear why people don't get space, like from watching those live streams, because essentially, like with the initial flyby thing, all it was there was a lot of hype building up to it, and then they went to like mission control, and there was loads of people standing around, and they had flags, and then they done a countdown of when New Horizons was at its closest approach, and then when the countdown hit 0, everyone waved their flags and cheered. And if you're not into space, it'd be really hard to get why that is so significant, Whereas like I was there.
Sorry, what was the countdown counting?
It was counting to the point at which New Horizons will be at its closest approach and ping back a signal.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so like I was so excited. I was like, come on, 10, 9, 8 and all this. And then like the captain was like, okay, yeah. I'd be like, it's not the most exciting thing in the world, but I'm happy for you. So it's funny, like this, like how space nerds get all this stuff, and people who aren't into space really don't understand why people are into space. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the other thing was on the lead up to the countdown, Charles Bolden, I think that's his name. He's the head of NASA.
Mm-hmm.
He was doing a lot of media interviews. Various reporters from various newspapers from around the world were given a little bit of time with him, and he would explain what's going on. After a couple of interviews, it became abundantly clear that if he kept saying the word planet, reporters would latch onto it and be like, are you going to change the distinction back to planet now because of New Horizons? And it was so bad that one fella working like behind the scenes had to come up and be like, don't mention the planet thing. Just use the word Pluto. Otherwise, people will just not report on what is actually the important thing to report on. Which was really sad and really frustrating, because I was kind of like, people, we need to get over this dwarf planet thing and just like accept Pluto as an object, regardless of its classification.
It doesn't make a damn difference.
It makes no difference. From Pluto's perspective, Pluto is still this hunk of rock and ice out there, and it is not going to change based on what we call it. But again, the popular media, like that was the only thing that they seemed to latch onto. Like no one asked interesting questions. It was all just kind of orientated around, oh, so does this mean it's a planet now? And that really frustrated me.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So I assume from your reaction then you don't care about dwarf planet versus planet.
I don't care, and I can't understand why anyone would care.
I think the only reason to care is kids. Having an arbitrary dwarf planet distinction makes learning the solar system easy for children. So they don't have to go in school, they don't have to learn, oh, there's 30 objects in the solar system. They just need to learn there's X amount of planets, and then we have these other things. But it is arbitrary, and it's not really scientific. It's not a scientific classification, it's arbitrary.
Have you come across any good mnemonics to remember the 8 planets? Because It used to be my very easy mnemonic just sums up 9 planets. Right? So you could just say my very easy mnemonic just sums up 9, but that, isn't very helpful or accurate anymore.
That's very true, yeah. To be fair, I've never used those mnemonics. How do you pronounce that?
Mnemonics.
Mnemonics.
I don't know.
Mnemonics. I've never used those mnemonics because I've just always known the planets and in the order they come in. Mm-hmm. Like, it's never been a thing for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd be interested to see what is the current mnemonic.
They're not mnemonic. Sorry, I've been saying it wrong. Mnemonic. They're not like necessary, but they can be useful.
Yeah, of course.
I think I only learned that when I was like 17 anyway, so...
There's a nice one that I can't recall at the moment for stellar classifications. Because you have like O stars, then is it B stars, A stars, F, G, K, and M. And see, I just know them roughly. I think that's right. But there is one with them.
If you had a mnemonic for it, you'd be sure.
This is very true. Wait, no. I think it's "Oh, be a fine girl, kiss me." Oh, be a fine girl, kiss me. But yeah, so I was very annoyed at the dwarf planet thing. It makes no difference. Who cares? It detracts from the actual proper discussion that needs to be had.
Mm-hmm. What ought the discussion focus on?
Like, as in what the discoveries we are expecting to make on Pluto will be. Instead of asking questions like, is Pluto going to be a planet now? Ask, like, what are you expecting to find?
Also, isn't that, like, nothing to do with NASA?
Yeah, it's the IAU that set that.
NASA have no say in that, and, like, they don't care, presumably.
Yeah, they really don't care. But to be fair, like, the media is not good at, like, being good, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They aren't astronomers and astrophysicists, so they don't know. So they just ask whatever's in the kind of the zeitgeist at the time.
So it's the public's fault as well.
A little bit. I mean, like, I don't want to, like, be all, like, up on my soapbox, but I think we do need to understand a little bit more about space than we do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, there's a huge demographic of people who, like, think the moon's a planet. There's a huge amount of people that think that the sun revolves around the Earth, and not because not because they like they willingly subscribe to this kind of geocentric idea. It's just because that's what they think. They're like, oh, the sun spins around the Earth every day, so it's like the sun goes around the Earth. Like, they just don't want to be informed, and it's like, God damn it, people, come on.
Huh.
So yeah, it endlessly frustrates me about what people think about space. But yeah, so the Pluto launch was very good, and it's exciting seeing all the images come back. Like obviously the high res image of Pluto with the big love heart, which is lovely, really nice, and the images of like the ice plains coming back is really neat as well, because it implies that Pluto has a relatively new surface.
Oh.
So that means there has to be some sort of like a geological activity going on, because otherwise we'd expect to see loads of craters. But something's covering up those craters, and that's a really interesting thing. And I haven't come across a valid theory to describe that. So that's obviously they need to study that. That's really interesting. And XKCD did a wonderful little thing. I'll put it in the show notes, where they put up an image of the high-res picture of Pluto, and they marked in really funny little terms for all the features.
I think I saw that, yeah.
Do you see the one with the Lion King reference?
I don't think I did.
So you know the way on the new image of Pluto there's a giant love heart shape?
Yeah.
And it's bright. It's like really, really bright.
Yeah.
And then the two, like, in the lower portion of Pluto, the two surrounding regions are very dark. So, like, XKCD drew a little line and being like the boundary to the Pride Lands, and it's like the hyena country down below. It was really good. And there's another couple of really funny little bits. Like, there's one area that looks like a little dinosaur, so he's like, like the dinosaur bit, and there's like there's a charging socket as well on it. So I thought that was really funny. I'll definitely link that in the show notes.
That's the kind of thing I think he's best at. I haven't really liked a lot of his comics for a while now, but his labeling, when he labels stuff like he did for Pluto, or remember the Upgoer 5?
Oh no, what's Upgoer 5?
It's a drawing of the plans for the Saturn V rocket, labelled using only the 10,000 most common words in English.
Brilliant.
It's very, very funny.
Oh, you must link me to that. I'll throw that in the show notes. That sounds really, really
I will
interesting.
I will do. He's really good at stuff like that, and his What If series is very good as well at the moment.
Yeah, so I'm subscribed to his webcomics and his What If series. Mm-hmm. And you're dead right. I think the What If series is the quality is a lot better than the comics. But like still, as far as webcomics go, it's really good. It's really good. One I'm completely losing faith with at the moment is Cyanide and Happiness.
Oh, I haven't read that in a long time.
Yeah, it's not really appealing to me now. I don't know why. I don't know. So I'm on the lookout for some really good webcomics because I have shockingly few in my feed.
Have you read Order of the Stick?
I haven't. What is Order of the Stick?
Order of the Stick is it's a webcomic kind of set within a D&D world, essentially.
All right,
and
cool.
It starts out just as kind of silly jokes about dungeon crawls. But it's developed this really, really big and complex and nuanced story. It's really worth checking out.
Cool. Order of the Stick, yeah?
Order of the Stick. It's kind of started out just sort of stick figure, like barely above stick figure art. And his art style is still that, but it's evolved to have a lot of kind of subtlety to it. And I know people who read it who aren't gamers, who have no interest in tabletop games, and they just enjoy the story of it. So
cool.
Yeah, and it's funny as well.
Oh, thanks, man. That's really good. I'll once we're finished recording, I'll have a look at that, and I'll feedback will follow in the next episode.
Great.
So yeah, good time for Pluto. Good time for science. It's really nice that science is coming to the fore, and making popular news in a way. That's really, really helpful. And it was a great day watching the live stream, and I look forward to the next couple of months of the data coming in and reading about all the new and amazing discoveries we make of everyone's favourite not planet.
I think I saw as well that I didn't realise till like this week is actually a good few years ago as New Horizons was passing Jupiter, I think.
Okay.
It got images of volcanoes on Io, which is pretty cool.
Oh, are they from New Horizons?
I think so, yeah.
Oh. Yeah, the volcanoes on Io are really cool. And like they're made by tidal forces, tidal interactions between it and Jupiter.
That is metal.
Which is really cool because as far as I know, I could be wrong, Io isn't large enough to have a molten core, so it wouldn't be large enough to have tectonic activity.
Yeah.
But given Jupiter's just sheer gravity, it like tugs Io around and then it heats up its interior and you get like these volcanoes.
That's so cool.
Jupiter is just metal as hell.
So Io must be like pretty close to the roach limit or whatever if it's being pulled on that much.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not even going to hazard an attempt at saying where Jupiter's roach limit is. Part of me thinks that just being in the vicinity of Jupiter is enough to have it do stuff to you. I mean, like, Jupiter's responsible, well, we think Jupiter's responsible for having the asteroid belt, like tearing up a protoplanet into the asteroid belt. And I mean, the asteroid belt is like a couple of AU away from Jupiter, you know, so it still has an effect there.
Well, I'm sure I've told you before, a great fact I learned in a composition seminar one time, actually.
Ooh.
That asteroids that have an orbital speed that is... Oh, sorry, if you look at the charts of asteroid densities compared to their speeds, there are very few asteroids that have an orbital speed that is the same as Jupiter's or like a whole integer multiple of Jupiter's, because that's a harmonic resonance and they get pulled out.
Yeah, so what Bill is describing there, and I didn't realise you knew this, like this is not something I always knew as well, is that within the asteroid belt, there are these things called Kirkwood gaps. And essentially it's where the density completely drops off and we're missing asteroids at these points. And that's because, like Bill said, those points in space are in harmonic resonance with Jupiter, and it just knocks them out of their orbit there. So the asteroid belt is not what you see on telly, like this kind of homogeneous rocky zone. It's kind of very segmented.
And it's also like not nearly as dense as it would be shown to be.
Oh,
like
yeah.
In that sequence in The Empire Strikes Back and stuff.
Yeah, it's just total nonsense.
Yeah,
it's just not going to happen. I hesitate to say hard figures on a podcast that I haven't prepared, but I think the entirety of the asteroid belt accounts for something like 1/10 of the moon's mass.
Really?
Yeah, it's very, very, very not massive at all. Like,
Wow.
So it's definitely not going to look like it is on Star Wars. And it's like segregated. There's like gaps and things like that. Almost like a ring system in a way. But I use the word almost loosely. Don't kill me, internet.
Almost like what?
Like a ring system, like Saturn's ring system.
Oh, okay, I get you.
The way it has gaps, but they are kind of made with a different mechanism.
Yeah, I understand.
But yeah, Jupiter, great planet. And also, it could be considered a dwarf planet if you want to take the dwarf planet terminology to its like extreme conclusion.
Jupiter could be.
Yeah, because one of the criteria is that in order to be a planet, one must have cleared its orbital neighborhood.
Right.
So, like, it's not in a dirty region of space. It's soaked up all the material or shot it off in space.
Yeah.
And with Jupiter's orbit, it has the Trojan and Greek asteroids in its orbit.
Yeah.
It has, like, a collection of, like, rocky debris at 2 points in its orbit. So if you want to be super pedantic, Jupiter kinda isn't a planet, you know, and which just speaks volumes to how stupid and arbitrary the dwarf planet distinction is.
Yeah. So as I'm always telling you, Edgar, you make good content.
Aw.
No, you do. You know, you make good content. I mean, obviously, I play my role in making the podcast the huge success that it is. Obviously.
Yeah, this podcast will be an epic failure without Bill.
I joke, but the YouTube channel, like, you do really, really good work there, and we've had a couple of comments since the last few videos came out of people asking your advice, and I think this is probably a nice way to follow on from talking about how to move yourself away from minute physics like we were discussing last week. People seem to want to know more about your work process and how you actually go about making your videos. So
yeah.
Could we talk about that a bit?
We most definitely can. Bill, how do you want to frame this discussion? Like, we can do extreme gory detail, or I can talk about it in a generalized sense. What do you think would be best?
I guess let's put this in terms of advice for people who want to do their own YouTube channels. So, I mean, basic workflow, things to kind of improve workflow, and then logistics of actually getting things up there and promoting and...
Okay.
And I think that's probably what people... I mean, I don't know. What do other beginner YouTubers want to hear?
That sounds legit. That sounds like what you would need to know. Also, I suppose we are going to frame this from a world-building YouTube channel standpoint, yeah?
Okay.
All right. So, with that in mind, my advice would be don't start a YouTube channel. And the reason why I say this is because looking back, I think that what might have been more optimal would be to do a blog. Because it's a lot easier to communicate, like, say, maths, for example, in written form.
Right.
Much easier. And I suppose the ideal world for me would have been do a blog with an audiovisual component.
Okay.
You know, so like go through the meat of the stuff in text and then demonstrate its application in audiovisual. So I think that, so if anyone is interested in setting up a world building thing on the internet, I think that's the way to go.
A world building educational kind of thing, like what you're doing.
Yeah, a similar sort of thing to me, yeah.
Okay.
And I think that if that piques your interest there, you should go check out Atomic Rockets, which is a world-building educational sort of thing, like what I do, but in blog form. It doesn't involve video. And they'll give you an idea of the pros and cons. You can see how the different methods of doing things. One can get across a lot more information in blog form than one can do in video form. But, actually, and a caveat to that, there is really hardly any world-building YouTube channels. You know, like if you Google world building, or if you YouTube world building, you get me, and you get some like sporadic other ones, and most of them are not really world building. They kind of have just one or two world building videos or something like that. So I'm not saying start a blog to like minimize my competition. Like that's not at all what I'm saying.
Clever move, Edgar. Clever move.
Not at all. I think a blog is more optimal, but I would like to see more world building on YouTube because that would give me a chance to interact with more channels as well, you know, and do like crossover work and things like that. So there, yeah. So just thought I'd start off with that. Right. So let's talk videos, Bill. Yeah.
Sure thing.
Okay. So I have my workflow. See, I have a checklist that helps me through my workflow that I use. So I have that open in front of me. So I'll just start talking through it and then stop me if I get too waffly.
Sure thing.
Okay, all right. So the first thing on my workflow is script. Okay?
Yeah.
Which is fairly obvious. And by script, that obviously involves all the research as well. My advice on research is try not to use Wikipedia too often.
Okay.
I think
what other sources would you recommend?
So when it comes to space, there's a number of sources you can use. I'll put these in the show notes. But also, I mean, like, there's a number, like Google Books is quite good sometimes.
Yeah.
Try just anything that's, like, primary sources would be great, but anything that's not an encyclopedia.
Are encyclopedias good places to start off?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Commonly, I will go to Wikipedia and read through the Wikipedia page and make notes of the interesting points and see, can I verify those points on other sites? Mm-hmm. And very often as well, like, you can go down to citations on Wikipedia and follow the links there, and they usually take you to some interesting places.
Yeah.
So I write a script, I research a script, I try and write about 2 to 3 different drafts of a script to try and get rid of nonsense that doesn't need to be there. Then I ship it over to you, Bill, to have it proofread.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes. When it's a particularly problematic one or one that I have concerns about, I ship it over to you. So having a friend to proofread things really helps.
Editors are really, really important, whatever you're doing.
Yeah, you've no idea. Because you might think you're on top of things, and then just like a little tiny thing can get through the net, and then suddenly the entire internet goes, you're wrong. So I do that. And then, yeah, that's essentially it for scripting. Just research, script, and try and have it be as legitimate as possible. All right. Any questions on that?
No, that seems fine. So you want a good script to start off with. You need to have a solid script before you start recording.
If you're scripting a video.
Yeah.
Okay, obviously if you're going to do it in a like number file sort of style where you interview someone with knowledge, then no script is required.
Of course, yeah.
And scripting does slow the process down. Something serious. If I didn't have to script, I could punch out a video every couple of days. But the scripting just slows everything down. But for me, I need it because 1, I want to learn about what I'm talking about. And 2, I don't want to run the risk of being wrong on the internet. And you minimize that risk by scripting and rereading and proofing and things like that.
Okay.
All right. So after scripting comes storyboarding.
All right.
So I take my script and I just draw pictures while reading it. And I have that as like a summary in front of me, and I hang that on my wall as I animate. And very often the cool thing that happens is that the storyboard influences the script.
Oh.
Yeah, which is really cool. So I'll have worded something some way, and then when I go to storyboard, I realize I can just draw it instead of say it.
Yeah.
So then I go back and edit the script again to further knock out words.
Do you ever change things, like if you see a nice kind of visual link you can make, that you could put things in the script in a different order?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, that's happened numerous times. The storyboarding is almost the most essential part of the scripting process.
Right.
Which is
great.
Which is kind of cool. And I think not immediately obvious when you think about these things. So then, once I've all that done, I go to record the audio. So to record the audio, I usually try and stand up, which again might seem a bit weird, but it's kind of important because, you know, you can get proper like tone and posture and proper delivery of things. I found sitting down kind of, it like mutes the voice almost, you know?
Really?
Yeah, kind of like the way, you know, when singers, like opera singers sing, they prefer to be standing up. You know, they don't like when they have to sing.
Of course, yeah.
So it's kind of the same thing. You feel more confident and your shoulders are back and you like bang out the script really well. So I try and stand up. And I don't memorize my scripts. Maybe that's something to be said. I read from the laptop as I record. Ideally, if time wasn't an issue, I would memorize scripts because that means you can really deliver it really well.
Yeah.
But that would add that could add another week onto production time, you know?
I don't know. I find from when I speak in public and things like that, that I prefer not to have things learnt off by heart.
Right.
because it becomes stilted. I mean, I have, usually I'll say when I give presentations on my Botswana work or whatever, I have like my essay, and I depending on what length I'm allowed to talk for, I edit that down into a sort of a shorter essay. But I don't worry too much about having it exact, because I will extemporize a little bit on stage. I'll change things around.
Yeah.
I'll flow differently.
I think that works really well when it is live.
Right.
Because if you fumble or misspeak, people are just like, yeah, well, he's just talking to us. He's giving a presentation. Whereas if you were to fumble or misspeak on the internet, it's like that's set in stone for the rest of eternity. You know, so like I'm totally with you. The few times I had to give presentations and talks in college, like I would never prepare those. That would be really odd for me to prepare a presentation. I'd have maybe 1 or 2 bullet points, have a rough idea of what the first section, the middle section, the last section of the talk would be, and that's it. But whereas the YouTube thing is totally different. The YouTube thing is like it's prepared to within an inch of its life. Like,
yeah.
Well, for me that works. Obviously, other people will have other methods of doing this. Like I cite Numberphile again and Brady Haran's work. It is all not prepared, but it is all brilliant. Okay, so then anything else on that?
No, that all sounds pretty solid. That all makes sense to me. I guess there'll be less scripting involved for people who want to do sort of vlog type deliveries, or there'll be less storyboarding involved. The scripting won't involve that stage. But otherwise, for anything where you're doing any other graphics, that'll seems like a pretty critical part of the process.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely, yeah. If you're a vlog, there's no need to do it at all. I will say... Go on.
Sorry, after you?
No, go on.
What about your little vlog sections at the end of your videos?
Oh, that's a really good question, Bill. Yeah. So I have tried doing them ad lib, and it just doesn't work.
Okay.
I can't ad lib in front of a camera. It just comes out as absolute nonsense. Again, long-time listeners of the podcast will know this because I waffle like crazy. And so those little outro sections would turn into like 10-minute rants. So I also script those. And in fact, we're going to get to them in a bit.
Okay, I'll leave that till later.
Okay, so then we have research, script, storyboard, record audio. Obviously, by recording audio, that is including things like, edit after recording, master it. Really important to master audio, okay? Like a big mistake I see people who are starting off make is that they think that the audio that goes in raw from the recording is the final audio. It is nowhere near the final audio.
Could you describe a little bit what mastering involves?
Okay, now this could take up an entire podcast, all right? But so I'll keep this kind of vague. I'll link to some good mastering tutorials on YouTube if anyone's interested. But essentially, it involves stuff like EQing, normalizing, compressing, hard limiting, basically just making the voice louder.
Okay.
Because you don't want listeners to have to ride the volume knob while they listen.
Right.
You want to just have it a nice loudness that it's nice and consistent and people don't ever think about the volume,
Mm-hmm.
Mastering is like an art within itself. It's crazy, and I don't do it perfectly. There are times when it goes completely wrong. I'm not a professional at this. Like you say, I'm an autodidact.
I'm
an autodidact when it comes to sound engineering. Oh, and which reminds me, if anyone has any cool, if someone is a sound engineer and they want to leave some mastering tips in the comments, I would be extremely interested in hearing those tips.
Same here, actually. Yeah, same here.
Yeah, anyone who does anything that involves audio, mastering is crucial.
Mm-hmm.
So anyhow, after everything's edited and mastered, I then import that into Final Cut, which is my editing software of choice.
Okay.
And I hate Final Cut.
Of choice, but also not really.
Yeah, so what this is I kind of fell into Final Cut, and it doesn't really work very well for me in terms of the videos that I make, like the time-lapse sort of thing. I'm not willing to dedicate time to learning another system.
Yeah.
I know how to use Final Cut. It does its job okay. It's a bit glitchy. It crashes quite a lot. But learning a new thing would involve a huge investment of time and it's not worth it. So I just want to say that maybe perhaps choose your editing software really wisely.
Shop around,
definitely. Anyhow, so I put it into Final Cut, and whilst it's like starting to load into Final Cut, I start my pre-filming checks. Okay?
Okay.
Alright, so I really like checklists, so this is why I said like this could get very, very detailed. So my pre-filming checklists are, I need to check for paper supply. There has been times where I've been like, I'm going to film today, and there's been no paper in the house, which is like detrimental.
So you do it all on paper? You don't use a whiteboard or anything?
I don't use a whiteboard. I don't use a whiteboard because some of the colours one can get for whiteboards are pretty garish.
Right.
I don't have the same colour palette as I have with like pencils and markers.
Yeah.
So I choose paper. The downside of that is that I have like several hundred, maybe even thousands of sheets of paper lying around my bedroom. Like I'm looking at it now. It's a substantial stack.
Do you have all of the Artifexian pages?
I have every single Artifexian page.
That is class.
Do you think so?
That is amazing. So like when we make it big, we can like auction all those off.
Anyhow, so we check for paper.
Okay.
We then check to see if the markers are working. I don't know why you're laughing. This is obvious, Bill.
I mean, yeah, like it is. It's so obvious that I'm laughing.
No, but the thing is, though, if I don't have this on a checklist, I'll start filming and be like, "Oh crap, my markers have run out." Then I need to check to see if my calculator is in the house. I'm like, this is very serious stuff. And then I need to check to see. This is actually very serious, bit. I need to check to see if all the electronic things have a charged battery in them.
Yeah.
So my camera needs to be charged, my intervalometer needs to be charged, we'll talk about that in a second, and everything needs to be up and running. I need to check to see if the lights are working, because every so often lights die. And so after I've done all these things, I can actually begin filming. Mm-hmm. Alright, you with me so far?
With you so far.
Any questions?
I don't think so, no.
I don't think so. All dealt with in excruciating detail. So I suppose before I discuss how I film, I think maybe talking about what my equipment is might be a good idea. Because if people want to emulate what I do, they'll need to have equipment for this. So I have a stills camera. Okay?
Yeah.
In particular, a Canon EOS 700D.
This is where we're getting all that product placement money.
Yeah. This is actually one big giant advertisement. Camera nerds out there, like, you know the way you have the Mac PC divide?
Yes.
Yeah, you also have a Canon Nikon divide.
Yeah.
Where, each group hates the other group.
Is it pronounced Nikon?
Nikon, I don't know. I don't use them.
I thought it was Nikon.
Oh, I don't know. In any case, I think everyone knows what we're talking about. In case anyone doesn't know, those are two big camera brands. It is kind of like the Mac PC debate in that it kind of doesn't matter. They're both fully functional cameras and they will do a good job. And yeah, there might be minute differences between the two, but essentially any camera that's a Canon or a Nikon is a goer. Mm-hmm. So because I can't stand that brand loyalty. I really can't. Like, why people go like, oh, he's a Mac user. I'm like, who cares? Like, who cares what computer I use? Like, it makes no difference. But anyhow, so I have a Canon mounted on a tripod, okay? Placed on a table facing downwards.
Yeah.
Okay, you with me on that?
I'm with you.
Okay, and onto the camera, I've attached a intervalometer.
And what does that do?
Right, so that's a little device that it tells the camera to take a picture every second.
Every second?
Or however long you want, but I have it set to every second.
Wow.
Yeah. So that means that I don't have to like draw a little bit and then stop and then take a picture and draw a little bit and stop, because that would be torturous. I can just set the thing to play and then just keep drawing and it just takes over with pictures. If you're going to do stop motion, trust me, an intervalometer, although they're quite expensive, it's an absolute necessity. Don't attempt it without an intervalometer, seriously. And then I have two lights, and they are Nangguan CN600 CSA lights.
And what kind of lights are they? I'm assuming they're not just like desk lamps or something.
No, they're like filming lights. So they're like big LED panels.
Kind of like LED panels. Okay.
Yeah, they're because I used to, before I decided to invest quite a lot of money in lights, I used to use builder's lights.
What are they?
Like lights from a building site.
Oh, okay, like just like the kind of plug-in ones with sort of cage around them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
the ones that run on halogen bulbs, and oh my god, are those lights just the worst? like they are barely functional as lights. Mm-hmm. Okay, and not even for a filming perspective, just from a perspective of being a light. Like they just so irritate me because like they would heat up really hot and burn themselves out. And if you needed to replace the halogen bulb, if you touched the bulb with your fingers, like your bare skin, chances are that bulb wouldn't work.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you need to have like rubber gloves to change a bulb. They're just the worst.
Man, I was doing this the other week. Just use tissue. Just use toilet paper.
No, I know, but come on, like LED. Do you know, like LED is so beautiful in comparison. Like, why don't they make LED builders lights? You know, like surely they're cheaper. Bulbs don't die. You know, they have a nicer light. They don't heat up. Like, it just seems like that's the only way forward. And I used to actually, slightly embarrassingly, way back in the early days, like in the first maybe 10-ish videos, I used to have to record like minus a lot of clothing because it was just so warm. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, there's times there was literally like dripping sweat, and then when it hit summertime, and I had to record in the middle of the day or film in the middle of the day with these like glaring halogen bulbs, and then like 20-degree heat, and you're like, this is actually torture. So I decided after that I need to get proper lights. Lights are very expensive. If you're going to start a YouTube channel on the tight, I think builder's lights are probably the best way to go, even despite how annoying they are. All right, so yeah, again, just to reiterate, camera set on tripod, facing down, intervalometer hooked up, facing down onto a sheet of paper, intervalometer hooked up, and then 2 lights pointing at the sheet of paper.
I don't really think we tend to see your shadow. Sorry, I should move closer to the mic. I don't think we really tend to see the shadow of your arm while you're, like, when it appears on screen. Is that because the 2 lights are bright enough that the shadow cast by one will be like eliminated by the other?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Okay.
And they're coming in at kind of roughly 45-degree angles.
Okay.
So they kind of balance out the shadow, exactly, yeah.
So I guess you cut a lot of the pictures that are taken. If it's been taken one every second, you would throw away the majority of that.
Oh, you've no idea. So many pictures get cut. I mean, like, I think an average video, like an average maybe 5 to 7 minute video, usually takes about maybe 4,000 or 5,000 pictures. Mm-hmm. And then a huge chunk of them get cut.
Yeah.
An absolutely massive chunk. All right, so we have the rig set up. All the things are checked. I have paper. I have markers. There's batteries and everything. It's all good. So then what I do, really crucially as well, and I only learned this a few months ago, is I do white balance. Hugely important, right? And photographers everywhere are going to be like, well, duh, obviously white balance. But people who aren't photography heads, white balance is not really a thing that like we think about.
Yeah.
But white balance is really, really important. Because remember we had this discussion before about why my videos are like yellow tinged and blue tinged.
Yeah.
This is before I white balanced. And now I white balance, and now I've gotten the paper, the white of the paper, as close to white as I can get it.
Cool.
So that's really important. You want good colours and realistic colours, white balance. Also, if you don't white balance and you film like a vlog, say, skin tones could come out all wrong, which is just like death. Like, that's automatic. The video doesn't go uploaded then. So yeah, white balance. And then do all the usual things like full manual settings, set aperture, shutter speed, all the usual photography things, which I'm not going to get into because that could take an entire podcast as well.
But the resources are out there on the internet to learn all that stuff reasonably competently, I assume.
Yeah, like everything I do on the internet, I had little to no prior training. And I've all learned from reading stuff on the internet and buying books. So it is all out there, definitely.
Cool.
And I'll put links to some sites, and I encourage you to check it out. Photography in general is a pretty cool thing. Being able to properly photograph something is just I think it's just a really cool skill to have. Mm-hmm. So definitely worth checking out. So then I begin to draw.
So after all of this, you finally get to the actual drawing.
We get to the actual drawing part. Also, this stage is usually where I throw on some podcasts. Mm-hmm. Because this stage can be pretty long and can be pretty boring. Because I know what I'm going to draw already. There's no kind of creativity. So I need to have something to keep my mind occupied. So podcasts get thrown on. I'll throw a link to some decent podcasts as well in the show notes. It's all very self-explanatory. I just draw what I've already previously storyboarded. I make minor edits as I go because sometimes things don't scale correctly. And once drawing is done, then it's kind of into Final Cut proper for editing. Mm-hmm. And so that's basically, it comes in a couple of steps. Basically, I take everything in and I sync up the pictures to the audio. Very simply, like. Then once that is done, that's kind of like my first draft. Then I close down Final Cut and I go into Photoshop and do any sort of Photoshopping that needs to be done.
Wait, you Photoshop... So does Photoshop work with video as well then?
Oh, well, no, because I'm working in stills.
But would you not do the Photoshop stuff before putting the stills into Final Cut?
Right, okay, yeah. So very often the Photoshop stuff is a reaction to what I've already done.
Okay.
Alright, so I'd be like, oh, this doesn't quite work. Maybe I need to Photoshop in something here.
Okay, so you kind of put stuff roughly together, see what needs Photoshopping, do the Photoshopping, and then go back to Final Cut?
Then go back to Final Cut,
okay.
Import the Photoshop stuff, and then put them on top of it. Mm-hmm. Alright? And then all I do is I color correct, make sure all the colors are really nice, and do the little like mastering things on top of that. And then in light of everything that has been done, like the script, the editing, all this sort of thing, I then go and film myself talking the outro.
Yeah.
Okay? Which can only be done at the very end of the process because there might be something, even despite scripting and having visuals, that is still unclear. I need to make sure it's clear. So that happens afterwards. So yeah, and that involves writing a little mini script and all that sort of jazz. So once I've filmed the outro, I take the outro in and again, do the same things really. Put color correct, edit it together. And then once everything is all in one place, all edited and all done, I can finally export. And so this usually is that. So everything I've just described, minus the scripting, is usually about a 1 to 2 day process.
Okay.
So once exported, and I export as a large file because I compress it further. And once I've exported and compressed it, I take it to YouTube. And then the YouTube bit, this bit I hate. Because it's kind of like, you get this feeling that like once you've exported a file or a video, it's like done, you know?
Yeah.
And then you go to YouTube.
It's out of your hands now.
It's out of my hands. And you're like, oh, I'm finished. This is great. I could like take a break. And then you realize, oh no, wait, I still have all of YouTube stuff to do. And there's a lot of YouTube stuff. Anyone who doesn't upload won't realize this, but there's a lot of backdoor stuff you have to do. Like subtitles. You gotta put your subtitles in. That's really important.
You have to do those yourself?
No, I upload the script.
Okay.
But you have to tell it, you know, what script to do. You have to set the timings. You have to do it. It's not the most arduous process in the world, but it's a thing to do.
Yeah, it sounds finicky, and you have to set the annotations and stuff on the screen as well, don't you?
Yeah, the annotations. I'm not going to get into this because I could rant all day long. The annotations are really finicky. Like if you have a box, right? Say you've drawn a perfectly square box, right? Trying to get an annotation to align perfectly with that square box is just about impossible. It's really, really hard. And to the point where I've just given up. It's just kind of, they get slapped on in the general area. I'm not going to dedicate like half an hour trying to get annotations to work. But yeah, you go through and you put in annotations. Then you put in your cards, which is the new eye icon on the top of the screen. No. Yeah, so there's this new icon. It's an eye, and it's basically an annotation that works on mobile devices. Huh. Because annotations never worked on mobile devices. So that's really important. So anyone who's listening on mobile, on a mobile device, will need the links in the eye section. Okay. So I need to do that.
Like a letter I.
It's a letter I. It's an I encased in like a white circle.
Okay, yeah. No, I thought you meant like a ocular organ.
Like an ocular organ?
Like,
Oh yeah. No, not the like sack of liquid we call the eye.
okay.
The letter I. So yeah, and then you gotta like tag, do all your like metadata, monetize and things like that. And it's a good maybe half an hour to 45 minutes in YouTube trying to get everything correct.
Right.
Which is kind of longer than I wish it was, but you know, that's just the way it is. And then when everything's done and everything's grand and everything's uploaded and there's no problems, I can hit the publish button. Finally. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. There's a lot of stuff going on. But the publish button is my favorite button in the world, Bill. Publish. It's just beautiful. Beautiful. So then I publish and then make sure to plug on like Facebook, various subreddits, Twitter, and that sort of thing to get it out there. Because I've discussed in the past, my channel is not very findable on YouTube. You know, world building is not something that one just searches.
Yeah.
So it's really important for me after videos all done to like, you know, go and try and engage in as many different platforms as possible to try and get the video out there. And then Bill, that is my process.
That is how you make a video.
That is how I make my video in excruciating detail. And if anyone in particular is looking to set up a YouTube channel and wants extra advice, go to the comments in the subreddit. I'll be more than happy to go into even more painful detail. Welcome to the green room.
The green room?
The green room.
Yeah, it's looking nice.
Isn't it? I've decked it out in all shades of green I can get my hands on.
The room I'm currently in is actually kind of green. Got kind of sort of a pale green wall.
Yeah, because you're in the green room.
Because I'm in the green room.
In the green room. Do you like my emerald green chaise lounge?
No. It's garish.
Do you think it's garish? A bit too much green?
Maybe I'll come to like it in time.
You realise though that in the future when you're in the green room, you're going to have to wear green.
You could do it like in the Wizard of Oz book.
Okay, go on.
You know the Emerald City?
I do.
In the book, it's not green at all. It's how it works is the wizard makes it so that everyone has to put on green spectacles when they enter the city, and the excuse is that because otherwise you'd be blinded by like the dazzlingness of how green everything is.
I think given the garish layout of our green room, I think preventing eye damage would be good.
Okay.
I think we should proceed with green glasses.
Excellent.
Okay, so to explain for the listeners, we've decided to put the kind of what's going on in our life section at the end of the podcast now. Because I was thinking maybe people don't want to hear that. Maybe people just want to hear stuff like the main topic and follow up on things. So we'll get to those first and then we'll end the show. And then we go into the green room and we have a sort of more informal chat about what's going on in our lives. So if you want to listen to that, you can keep listening. If you don't, you can stop after the main topic and you've kind of still got the meat of the podcast. Make sense?
Makes a lot of sense.
Cool. So how are you, man?
I'm pretty good, yeah. I've had a lazy couple of weeks. I had a pretty busy summer up until a few weeks ago.
Yeah, Helsinki and all that.
More or less taking it easy now. Yeah, I was in Helsinki and then I was home for about a week and then I went down to Bantry, which is a town in the southwest of Ireland, in West Cork. And I was volunteering at a music festival there for the guts of 2 weeks.
Cool. How was the music festival?
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. I go every year. I attended for the first time in 2012. I had a piece played.
Okay.
And I enjoyed it so much that I've gone back to volunteer there every year since.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's very cool. And are you long back from Bantry?
It ended the 4th of July was the last day of the
okay,
festival,
so you're
finished about 2 weeks.
You're back a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so I've just been taking it pretty easy since then, doing a little bit of work, reading a lot.
What you reading?
Well, remember a few weeks ago we were discussing, a few episodes ago we were discussing Master and Commander.
Yes.
I've actually started reading the books.
Oh, very good.
That it's based on, which are interesting. I've certain little things I don't like about how it's written, with the writing style, but great characters and great dialogue and great plots, and it's naval warfare in the Napoleonic era, so I'm already on board automatically, really.
What's not to like, exactly.
What's not to like?
So overall, thumbs up so far, yeah?
Yeah, thumbs up. I've heard that new beginners are advised to start with the third one, and I've just finished the second one. I've just read the first two. So maybe they get even better from there.
Did you not follow chronologically?
They do follow chronologically, but people often say that the third one is where it starts to get really good, or it's a good starting point, and then you can go back and read the first two.
Maybe. I never subscribe to that idea.
Yeah, I hate doing that as well.
But on the subject of reading, Bill, I said in the podcast there that it was my anniversary.
Yeah.
And the captain got me a very interesting book.
Oh, yes?
That I've yet to start reading, but I will probably start reading tonight. It is a book by Michael Adams, and it's called From Elvish to Klingon. Exploring Invented Languages.
Cool.
Which is really cool. I thought I owned most of the kind of big language construction books. But this one it was never on my radar. And she bought this, and it was an amazing buy. I was literally blown away. I was like, this is... Because I don't like presents per se, because usually they're kind of crap.
Okay.
Yeah, if you don't know, it was kind of like, oh, I got you this, like, these flowers. And I'm like, okay, but I don't need flowers in my life. Do you know? Like, I get that there's a nice sentiment behind the present, but the present itself, usually for most people, is a bit meh. But this one is literally spot on. It has something to do with my work. You know, it's of my interests. It's a great present, so...
Well, I'm nervous about giving you your Christmas present now.
No, Bill. Actually, no, you should be, totally. No, I joke. And it's really weird. One of the chapters is about the Al-Bhed language from Final Fantasy X.
Okay.
Which I find really odd because, like, it's not a, like, very fleshed out language.
It's not a fully realised language.
Yeah, not at all. It's just a cipher of English. So it'd be interesting to see what he has to say about it. And... like how one can have a detailed discussion about Al-Bhed. So that's something I'm looking forward to.
Maybe it will be a counterexample. Maybe he will be saying it's just a cipher.
It could well be. But I was very surprised to see it. Like, because obviously I was expecting, Tolkien's languages, Klingon, that sort of thing. But to see Al-Bhed, it was like, oh, that's really interesting. I'm up for reading about this.
Yeah, that sounds good. Keep us informed. Well, I'm sure you'll tell us in the next episode anyway.
Definitely, and if I don't like it, I'll complain about it at length.
What else have I been reading? Well, so I got a Kindle for Christmas.
Oh, very good.
And the great thing about it is public domain books are so widely available online in ebook formats. Mm-hmm. So if the author has been dead for more than 75 years or whatever, then you can legally acquire their books. Okay. And what I've been doing, or what I did a little bit while I was in Banshee and when I came back, was reading Conan the Barbarian stories. And they're pretty interesting. There's a big difference between what we think of as the barbarian warrior archetype and how Conan is actually portrayed.
Oh, really? Enlighten us. How?
Okay, well, the very first Conan story, I think, was called The Phoenix and the Sword. The first one ever published. It starts off, and Conan's first appearance is doing paperwork.
No way!
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Because the story, like the very first published story, is shortly after he's become the king of Aquilonia. He murdered the previous king, strangled him on the steps of the throne, and then became king himself. Okay. And so this story takes up a few months later, and he's like doing official work, for the kingdom, because he's the king. And he has to do that.
Doing the bureaucratic stuff. Brilliant.
And a lot of the other ones, I think the next one I read was the first. These two I read a couple of years ago. The next one was The Tower of the Elephant, which is the first one chronologically that was written by the original author. Okay. And it's quite a classic story. He fights his way up in Necromancer's Tower to steal a great jewel. Typical stuff.
Yeah.
But at the top of the tower, he encounters an alien who's got an elephant head who's trapped inside the gem, and they discuss philosophy for a while.
No way.
Yeah, not in oh well, this is what I think about Leibniz, but there's kind of a philosophical bent to their discussion. And it's he's explicitly an alien rather than a monster. He's actually from another planet.
That's really
from
interesting.
Space. And a lot of them, there's one I read, one really, really good one. What was it called? I can't remember. But he gets there's a conspiracy against him, and there's a battle at the start, and the first thing he does is get knocked out and paralyzed.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So especially in like role playing games, the thing is that like barbarians in like Pathfinder and D&D, barbarians have good saves and they're resilient and stuff.
Yeah.
And the first thing he does in this story is, he fails a fortitude save and gets knocked out.
I love that he fails a fortitude save.
That's what happens. If we're looking at it in Pathfinder terms, that is what happens. So yeah, they're quite interesting. I can see where the barbarian archetype draws on Conan, but he doesn't fit it neatly in a lot of respects.
That's really interesting. Like everything you just discussed there, they're not usually words that I would use when referring to the barbarian archetype.
Like which?
Like philosophy, paperwork, being paralyzed.
Yeah, failing fortitude saves.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's really cool. I wouldn't have expected that at all. I always thought that it was always that way. Like the big beefy guy goes over and like batters his way through everything to get to the conclusion of the story.
I mean, he does a lot of that.
Oh yeah, obviously. He's obviously still a barbarian. Like, yeah.
But he's really stealthy. Because there's loads of stories where he's a thief. When he was a young man, he was a thief. Huh. So he's like 6'6" and 300 pounds, and he like sneaks around the place and no one sees him.
They sound hilarious.
And he runs away from stuff as well. Like there's times when he encounters stuff and he's like, nope, can't kill that. I'm out of here.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's really glad that there's like it's a really fresh, I'm going to say fresh take on barbarians, but obviously it's the original.
Yeah.
But it's really cool that the original is so kind of like diverse. That's really nice.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of problems in the stories as well. Like for the most part, women in it are pretty useless. Because it was written in the 30s, and he was a real kind of manly dude, so he probably wasn't very smart about gender stuff. But something to be aware of when reading them. Don't be expecting nuanced discussions of gender.
But I don't think any book from the 30s or that era will be giving you nuanced discussions about gender.
Not a lot of them.
Not a lot of them. Yeah, I'm sure there's a few that break the mold, but the general trend, is stick with the zeitgeist of that era. So that's really cool. That's genuinely very, very interesting, Bill. Yeah. So I have a story.
Oh, yeah?
As I've mentioned numerous times, it was my anniversary, and I was staying over in the captain's house for 10 days in July, I think. And one of those days, we had a small party. So kind of like close friends came along. It was a gathering. It wasn't like a crazy party or anything. I cooked dinner and then we all sat around and had drinks and talked afterwards. But a couple of interesting things came up, right? One controversial, one not controversial. Which would you like me to talk about first?
Non-controversial first.
Non-controversial. Okay, so you know the way you and I like flags?
Yeah.
And you know the way not everyone likes flags?
Sure.
I have found that to be completely false. I think within everyone is a flag lover waiting to escape.
Okay.
Right? So, because I can't remember how it happened, but the conversation drifted towards flags. And I was like, okay, the minute I smelled flags, I was like, I'm going with this. And we had like a really long discussion about flags. And it's amazing how everyone has an opinion and everyone is interested in flags once you get the discussion going. Like, it was really cool. And we talked a lot about like good flag design, bad flag design, why I think certain flags are good and certain ones are horrible. And people are genuinely interested in hearing the reasons and being directed towards brilliant flags and shocking flags. I was like pleasantly surprised.
Are you sure it's not just the circles you move in?
Oh, no, definitely not. Because a lot of the people at that gathering were people that I'm not close friends with.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
There was myself and the captain. We were obviously close friends. And then one other mutual friend of ours. And the rest I kind of loosely know.
Okay.
So yeah, and we established that the Bangladesh flag is not one of the best flags in the world.
Green field with a red circle?
Yeah, green field with a red circle. The problem being that the green and red are really clashy. And the red circle is just ever so slightly off center. It drives me mental.
Is it actually?
Yeah, it's just... Google it there, man. It's like, it's just slightly left of center. And you're like, no, why didn't you put it in the center?
Huh. Okay, I kind of see that.
And the colours are really clashy.
it's offset slightly so it appears centered when the flag is flying.
Oh, is that what they say?
Well, according to that wonderful source, Wikipedia.
Still, just from what, like, looking at it in books and online, I'm like, oh God. And then we talked a little bit about the Czech flag, because there's a Czech girl there. And she was very delighted to hear that I really like the Czech flag. I think the Czech flag is a great flag.
It's like a red triangle.
Blue triangle on the left.
Yeah.
And then I think a white field on top and a red field on bottom.
Yeah, that's yeah. I've just googled it here. That's it.
Yeah, it's a really nicely designed flag. Simple,
nice and simple.
3 colors, does its job. Interesting point I found out, she told me, is that if the flag hangs vertically, they flip the horizontal colors. Are you with me here?
I'm just trying to understand. Okay, so it's like you put the blue is hanging down from the top.
The blue is hanging down from the top, yeah.
Okay, and the white is towards the hoist.
Exactly.
Okay, sorry, I was just trying to figure out how that was meaningful, because you can look at it from both ends. But yeah, I understand now.
But it's kind of cool that they mess with their flag that way, depending on orientation.
Yeah.
I didn't realise that was a thing people did. And so then I showed everyone the hideous US city flags. Milwaukee.
Like Provo and stuff.
Provo came up, yeah. Milwaukee came up.
I don't know the Milwaukee flag. Hold on.
Google Milwaukee, it's shocking.
Oh dear.
Oh dear, it's so bad, isn't it?
There is a lot in that.
And you know what the worst thing is? There is
What?
a little tiny flag in the middle of the flag.
Oh, there is?
Yeah, inside the cog. It's hilarious.
Huh.
So that one came up, and then a flag that I found out is officially the worst flag, the worst US city flag, voted upon by the North American Vexillological Association.
Okay.
Pocatello, Idaho. I want you to...
Hold on, is the copyright part of the flag?
Oh, you ruined it. I was going to say, can you pick out one feature that is just hilarious?
Is that it?
Yeah, the TM is part of the flag.
And the TM.
And the TM and the copyright. It's hideous.
Wow.
And then
I am impressed.
It's so bad. And then the what you call it, the impact font for like is it proud to be?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's kind of an impact kind of font.
It's just the worst. And so loads of people at the gathering, they didn't realize that such crap flags existed. And they really enjoyed being shown these terrible flags.
That's amazing.
And then one last thing, and I promise I'll stop talking after this. Actually, no, I can't make that promise. The Czech girl comes from a city called Ostrava.
Yeah.
And she was saying that the symbol for her city, I think, used to be a horse and a flower.
Okay.
And the city voted to change it. And they changed it to, wait for it, 3 exclamation marks.
What?
Yep. So what happens is every single municipal building in Ostrava has 3 exclamation marks after it. So you have the bank with 3 exclamation marks. The post office, 3 exclamation marks. So she was like, it took me a while to get used to. And once I got over the fact that every municipal building is shouting at me, I was okay with it. Which I thought was hilarious.
That's bizarre.
Isn't it? It's like Ostrava is super excited about everything.
It's kind of cute.
Do you know what? I am actually not against that. If you had 3 exclamation marks on a flag, that's shocking. Right? But making it a thing that cities, all the municipal buildings have little exclamation marks is kind of a fun little jokey thing. I think it's pretty cool.
I'm not a big fan of text on flags in general.
Oh man, it's one of the rules. What is it? The quote is, if you have to write the name of the thing your flag is about, your symbolism has failed. There's a great TED Talk by Roman Mars. Have you seen this?
No.
Okay, Roman Mars runs a podcast called 99% Invisible. It's awesome. It's about design and how we think about design. Really, really, really good. He did a TED Talk on flags. And he goes through terrible flags and what makes them terrible. And he goes through all the rules. And one of the rules, like I said, is never put text on a flag. Which Pocatello, Idaho just didn't care about.
Oh my no. What about, like, the flag of Amsterdam?
He brings up the flag of Amsterdam in his talk. What are your opinions on the flag of Amsterdam?
It's not really text. It's just 3 X's. Like, it's not really there's no textual information there, really.
Yeah. And do you think the flag is a good flag?
It's fine.
I think it's a
medium.
I think it's a great flag.
Yeah.
Because it just looks really badass. Like really piratey, you know? For the listeners, again, I'll link in the show notes all this, but the Amsterdam flag, correct me if I'm wrong here, Bill, is a red flag with a black stripe running through the middle. Horizontally. And with 3 white X's in the black stripe. Yeah?
Yeah.
And I just think it looks really cool. And your man, Roman Mars, agrees with me. He agrees with Edgar, but he was like, it's just a badass flag. I think it's really cool.
It's funny you mentioned the pirate flag, because there's a lot of pirate flags. And different captains had their own different flags. There was one which it was like a skeleton holding a spear in one hand and a chalice in the other, and he's like stabbing at a heart or something.
That sounds like it's probably a shocking flag.
It's not great.
Okay.
I think the thing about the skull and crossbones is actually reasonably true.
What do you mean is reasonably true?
I think like people did actually use the Jolly Roger.
Can I ask a question? The Jolly Roger, good or bad flag?
It's a pretty good flag.
I think it's a terrible flag.
It's got a lot of like cultural weight behind it at this stage as well.
Yeah, obviously, but I think from an aesthetic point of view, the skull and crossbones is too finicky.
And that's actually interesting, because this is what I was going to say. I saw a picture somewhere on the internet reasonably recently, like in the last year or so, of a preserved, like, actual pirate black flag from some pirate ship. It's in a museum somewhere. And it was actually very nicely made. And I'd kind of thought that it would be sort of roughly stitched, like an approximation of a skull and crossbones, because they're pirates. You know, they're not going to be doing precise needlework.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was actually really nicely crafted. And then I was thinking, well, I suppose they're pirates. Like, why wouldn't, like, I'm sure one of them was a tailor at some stage. I'm sure some pirate crews had tailors.
Yeah.
And especially because at times pirates were often from the Navy, and then they just like ran away and became pirates. And the Navy used to press gang people. So you'd have a huge variety of people in the British Navy from a variety of different backgrounds. And I'm sure other countries were the same.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, like, there's pride in a flag. You know, so if you're going to make a flag, you're going to want to make it really good. Well, yeah. I say this, but again, Pocketed, Idaho. But yeah.
Just the fact is that the trademark symbol and the copyright on it is absolutely brilliant.
For the listeners that don't go into the show notes, okay? Just this once, make an exception and go into the show notes.
Or just Google it.
Or even just Google it. Pocketed, Idaho. It's just brilliant. It defies belief. But anyhow, the Jolly Roger. I think, culturally, it's an amazing flag, but aesthetically, I think it falls under the sort of bad flag category.
What do you think is the worst flag? The worst flag you've ever come across? Would you say Pocatello?
It's hard. Provo or Pocatello, yeah. Pocatello's up there. It's very bad. Have you got a counterexample? Have you got something that's really shocking?
I'm going to say the flag of Venice.
I don't know. I don't know this. Hold on. Give me a second here. The flag of Venice.
Now, there's various versions of it. There's one, I'm not sure exactly what how to put them together in like historical order, but there's one incredibly terrible flag of Venice. Okay,
do you want to describe, I'm looking at all the flags of Venice now. Do you want to describe the one that you think is shocking?
Okay, so the centerpiece of this is a winged lion.
Right.
With a yellow halo on a blue background, and standing on some ground, and he has one paw on an open book which reads Pax Ivan Tibigali Marsta Tsemeus. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're quite busy here. There's a lot already.
Yeah.
And this has a really sort of Baroque or arabesque border around it in sort of, I don't know what colour that is, kind of crimson and gold and a little bit of dark blue detailing.
Yeah.
A really, really elaborately designed border. And then to the right of that, there are 6 panels, similar, with horizontal panels, stacked one above each other, in similar design to this sort of Baroque border. And there are 7 of them, and there are 7 little flags or coats of arms at the far end. It is just the busiest, most bizarre thing. Like, there's just so much here. What am I supposed to be looking at?
So I googled this flag, right? I can't quite see one that has coat of arms at the far side. But that being said, just about every single picture here is ridiculously garish. and I see some pictures here of the Venice flag. It's frayed. The right side, the bit not in the hoist, is like cut into little strips.
Right.
That's also hideous.
That's very strange.
Yeah, because like they'll like flail really easily. Like they can unravel really easily. Like that the reason why all flags are like roughly rectangular or some square is that they won't tear very easily. And the Venice flag just like no, screw you, good conventions.
if you look at the flag for the flag of Veneto, sorry, maybe this is actually a sub-region near Venice or something. Oh no, it's the province that Venice is in. It's that flag, the flag of Veneto, and it was based on an old Republic of Venice flag. That's what's going on.
Okay, hold on.
So the region of Veneto. Google flag of Veneto, you'll find the one I'm talking about.
Oh boy, it's worse. Oh boy. Oh god.
It's got so much detail. Like even like the picture itself, there's like specific detail to the landscape. There's a gradient in the sky in the version I'm looking
my
at.
god.
There's text in the book in like really, really small, and then there's 7 coats of arms. Isn't it amazing?
I don't have any words.
Isn't it amazing?
That is awesome. Listeners, definitely Google this. This is the Veneto flag. Veneto?
Yeah.
Veneto. We'll throw it in the show notes as well. If you want to have a good old giggle to yourself, go check this out. I think that might be a contender for Pocatello, Idaho. But I think the thing that makes Pocatello, Idaho just that little bit worse is that TM.
No, for me it's the copyright, because it was like it looks like an ad or something.
It's just the worst.
I love it.
Like, I don't understand how does this pass? Like,
can you copyright a flag?
Well, it's a work of art, isn't it? Is it?
I guess.
And I mean, like, is it property of the like the county or the city? But no, that's public property then. So I don't know. It's just awful. So
that makes me think of 2 things.
Go for it.
When I was in Finland, as I was talking about in the last podcast, I went to the Fortress Suomenlinna on the islands outside the city.
Yeah.
And I came across a flag. I think it's the military flag or the naval flag or something. And Wikipedia is also saying it's the state flag. So it's used for various purposes.
Okay.
And from a distance, it looks, and if you look at like a small thumbnail of it online, it looks like the Finnish flag, but in the center in the center of the cross where the bars all meet, it looks like the Google Plus logo.
Okay, right. What am I googling? Tell me what to Google.
State flag of Finland, I guess.
State. Okay, hold on. No, it looks like the Google Plus logo. Wait, now.
Okay, describe what you're seeing.
The most numerous flag here is a white background.
Yeah.
Blue cross superimposed on the white background.
Yeah.
Where the cross meets, there's like a red crest.
Yeah.
Does that look like the Google Plus logo?
The Google Plus logo is a red box with a white G and a white plus. From a distance, like when you can't see a flag clearly in real life, that looks really similar.
Oh, yeah, it does. I wouldn't know because I don't use Google Plus. Google Plus just seems like a train wreck to me. But yeah, it's not the worst, Bill.
No, it's not a bad flag. I just thought it was funny.
Favorite flag of all time?
I don't know.
Oh, well, I was going to give you mine.
Oh, okay, go for it.
The former flag of Libya.
It's just green.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry, I'm joking. That's obviously shocking. Like, it's just so irrelevant. Oh,
it's a green cross on a green background.
The green cross on a green background. Oh, first. I had to think about it there. I was like, what? That's not
Nordic Libya.
Nordic Libya. Anyhow, so that was that flag discussion went on longer than I thought it would. To be fair, so listeners, I would like to, before we formally finish the show, I'd like to really apologise for 90% of what I said. It was a bit long-winded. If you made it through this, great. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time. All right. Edgar out.
Edgar out.
Oh, okay. Hold on. What's his face? What's his name?
Jacob Stitch Duran. Are you Googling him?
I am. Stitch Duran. Oh my god, it's Edward James Olmos!
Isn't it?
Oh my god, that's brilliant.
I remember when I started watching it.
Oh, let's get those birds in the sky, Bill.